Hey, everybody, welcome to the Hire My VA Team and Business Building Podcast brought to you by ugozi.com. In this podcast, and of course at Hire My VA, we help you to reclaim your freedom through hiring and thriving with virtual assistants without breaking the bank. And that means your bank, which is the most important bank. Right, Larry?
That's right.
Yeah. Well, I'm Dave Braun, and you heard that guy piping in. He's my buddy, Larry. We were just talking for the last hour, talking about plans and what we're going to do. Maybe a new goal setting system that we've got together that we're going to be rolling out. That we thought would just be great to help a lot of people. And it's putting tools together that we've got in a really nice comprehensive framework. It's pretty exciting.
Handsome Dave, I love working with you.
Yeah, I love you working with you.
You make me happy.
Yeah. Hey, how do you like my shoulders? For those of you who can't see, I've got spikes coming out of my shoulders.
It's very Game of Thrones-ish.
Well, I'm at our timeshare getting a little bit of bonus time here in Southern California, looking at the beach to my left.
Palm trees and
I see a palm tree and the bird going over PCH.
Yeah.
Let's stop doing this podcast right now. I'm going to go out.
Let's finish this up, and then you can go play.
Yeah. No, it's kind of cloudy and cool, but it's always beautiful, man.
Well, we've got an interesting topic today, Dave, and it kind of ties in with what you're doing right now with your beautiful bride.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. So the question is how, and this time of year, right? The holiday season, well, it applies any time of year. But the question is, how do I rest and recover as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. It reminded me, one of the TV spots I did several years ago that you like to rub in my face once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
Is with Dr. Sudeep Bose on CBS.
The Larry Broughton.
That's right. Yeah.
I love that.
But we talked about, he asked me to come on to talk about an article that I had written called The 5 Physical Ailments of Success.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
I don't know if you remember that. I think I bet you I could look it up here pretty quickly.
It's on Ugozi, right?
It is on Ugozi. Yeah. And so I talked about a study that I had seen, here we go, that listed the top ailments that entrepreneurs tend to get that are success driven.
Yeah.
Right? Which means when the way they described it as they're ramping up their businesses, not business that is stabilized, because sometimes when a business stabilizes, we're into a better routine.
Yeah.
Right. But as you are ramping up your business or you're moving to a new growth phase, actually I just pulled the article up. Here are the 5 things that the study showed. Number 5 is lingering colds. Makes sense, right? Funky skin conditions. We get stressed out and you get a rash.
Yes.
Right? Eczema, those types of things. Back problems. We sit around, we're on our computers, we're not exercising. Killer migraines. And the thing that I get plagued with more than anything, kidney stones. We're so busy, we don't hydrate enough. So when this question came through, it immediately reminded me of that. But then when you and I were kind of brainstorming this, I think that this question is a good one, because if we tackle this properly, it'll prevent most of these ailments.
Yeah, or really mitigate him down, right?
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Yes, we can't guarantee it, David.
Yeah, hard to guarantee too many things.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, and I think that we are in the holiday season, and which is great, and we definitely do need to know what rest and recovery is. And actually, Larry, sometimes this time of year we need to know that more, because we're so busy doing holiday parties and shopping and getting ready for year end, and then going and doing stuff with family. I mean, it is almost never ending.
Yeah.
And then there's, we've got, family at Christmas, and there's the New Year's party, or there's getting ready for the New Year's party. Right. And then pretty soon, if we're not careful, we've gone through the holiday season and we're more tired than we were when we entered it.
We hear it all the time, people complaining about this, right, during the holiday season. Before we jump in, I want to remind people, I want to hear from you folks.
Yeah.
Right. How do you recover as a leader? How do you recover as a high achiever or an entrepreneur or a leader? Right. But if you want that article that I just mentioned, just go to ugozi.com, YOOGOZI.com. And in the little search bar on the right column there, what do you call it? The right sidebar.
Mm-hmm.
In the search engine there, just type in 5 ailments of success. And that article will pop right up. But, you know, Dave, as we were talking about this, we said that really there's 3 separate categories that make for a kind of an easy framework for recovery. Because man, we say, hey, I'm going to sprint for the weekend, or I'm going to sprint this week. And what ends up happening ultimately? Generally, that sprint lasts a month or a season, and we're not taking care of ourselves.
That's right.
Right. And so I think that we have to be really disciplined. And this is one of the things that a lot of us are lacking is discipline. But I like that as we were talking about this, it was, you know, there are micro rests, there are macro rests, and there are long-term rest. Right. And I think didn't that come from a book that you've been reading?
Well, there's some ideas there, but it was like we were talking about it, and those are our terms, right? So we can kind of like you said, put some framework around it, make people understand is what category this is in. It's always easier for me. I always try to think in terms of threes, right? It just makes it easier for me, and hopefully it makes it easier for other people.
Yeah.
So the first one, like you said, is micro rest, right? You want to talk a little bit about that, or you want me to this time?
No, I can hop in here. It's one of the things that we're developing. It's on our list of little webinars to do. Is that these are just small little rest cycles that you need to take throughout the day, right? A lot of studies have said you really should not be focused on your work any longer than 90 minutes max, right? And maybe you got to start up to that. But one of the things I like to talk about is the Pomodoro technique. Like I've got this little kitchen timer. It's a Pomodoro. It's a tomato, right? And that little
tomato or tomato.
Let's call the whole thing off, Dave. You say tomato, I say tomato. But that technique, just in a nutshell, is you identify what you're going to work on, and then you take your little kitchen timer, you set it for 25 minutes, and then you work, focus, work, and then it goes off at 25 minutes or 20 minutes. I found I work best at a 20-minute stop, and then take a 5-minute break.
Mm-hmm.
Just get up, walk around, go outside, get some fresh air. Dave, I get reminded sometimes. Do you remember that at my office there in Anaheim, there were a couple of times we just went down, stood in the grass, took our shoes and socks off, and stood in the grass.
That was so refreshing.
Right?
Yes.
How often do people actually do that? Right? So go do that for 5 minutes. Play with the dog for 5 minutes. Listen to music. Make yourself a cup of tea. 5 minutes. Stop. All right. Go back to your desk or whatever task you're working on. Set the timer again, 20 or 25 minutes. Do that 4 times. After the 4th 20 or 25 minute set, you take a longer 15 to 30 minute break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where you really just relax. Take a quick little power nap. Play with the dog. Do whatever. But get away from the work.
Yes.
Now, what you don't do, Dave, is during that 30-minute or a 5-minute break, you don't just switch and, okay, I'm working on writing my book and now I'm going to go check emails for 5 minutes. No, you have to actually let your brain rest.
That's right.
From that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So those are kind of the little micro stuff. Now we were talking before this and you talked about this, something, what's the guy's name? Jordan
Raynor. And if you guys can, if you're watching this versus listening to him, I'm holding up the book. It's called Redeeming Your Time. And it comes from a perspective of, Christ followers, Christians, but there's so much in it that even if you aren't, you'll get a lot out of it because he talks about a lot of the different scientific studies and techniques and things that he uses to help his time be more productive. It's called, the book's called Redeeming Your Time. And one of the things that he talks about that really made sense to me was, Larry, like on those 5-minute breaks you talk about, or if you choose to do it 90 minutes and then 15 minutes break, whatever it is, if you are doing work with your mind, then you want to work with your hands on your break. If you're doing work with your hands in your 90 minutes, then you want to do a break with your mind. So an example of that would be is most of you guys listening to us are working with your mind, most likely, and for the majority of what you're doing. And so a great break is like what you talked about, Larry, is go pet the dog, go take the dog for a walk. It could be doing something around the house. It could be laundry. It could be washing the dishes. It could be cleaning out your shed really quick. It could be doing a little bit of the lawn. So It's something where you're working with your hands and you're resting your brain during that time. And then of course, opposite is if you're doing something like if you're a carpenter or, or a mechanic or something where you're working a lot with your hands, then you may want to go in and sit down and read a book or read an article on something or look at your phone and do some social media. That would be a break for you. So I think, Larry, what we were talking about beforehand is just try different things and figure out what gives you the most rest. But we promise you it's the 15 minutes or the 5-minute break that you do. If you do something similar to what you're doing in your normal work, that is not going to be rest. You got to do something different.
And micro, think about this way, like in sports, for instance, and I mean micro, like small micro breaks. Like I follow combat sports, boxing, MMA, that kind of thing. A fighter may step back and drop his arms, or in between rounds, they go sit in the corner and rest, for a little bit in between rounds. A tennis player may switch hands, put the racket near the hand while they're resting in between sets or whatever it is. Small little breaks, they add up. They improve performance.
Yes.
Right? So you got to think of your body is really very much like a machine.
Yeah.
Right. And if you just think about your car, if you just sit your car out in the park, out in your driveway and put it in neutral and just rev that damn engine and sit there for an hour with your foot to your gas pedal to the floor, you're going to do some wear and tear on that car if you do that constantly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And one of the other things that Jordan Rader talks about, it's like, it makes sense is, of course, there's the rest and recovery cycles, and then there's a productivity cycles. Don't do something when you're done with your rest cycle. How do we do it? Don't do your main productivity cycle and do something to where it's not like taxing on your brain. In other words, the first productivity cycle of the day, don't, check your email. Do something that's a little bit more brain intensive, but that's a side note.
While it's fresh.
Yeah, while you're fresh.
Yeah.
Right. And we talk about these micro rests to help you stay fresh throughout the day.
Yeah.
Okay. And then of course, we want to, it's always a good idea to take a lunch break. And Larry, you want to talk about how I do my naps?
Yeah, do it.
Well, I have a nap every day. Well, I have an hour in my calendar blocked out from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. And we got to get this done in 15 minutes.
TikTok, man.
That's right. So then I'll go and fix myself some lunch and relax a little bit. Sometimes I'll catch up on the news, but then I will set a timer for 27 minutes, a countdown timer, and then I will take a nap. Sometimes I don't use all of that time, but I usually use most of it. And the reason why it's 27 minutes is because Daniel Pink wrote a book called When, about how important it is to do certain things, certain tasks when your body clock is most aligned with that type of a task itself. Like if you're a morning person and an evening person, when you do your creative times, when you do your detailed work, that kind of stuff. And he talks about what works for him for naps. If you start taking a nap longer than 15 or 20 minutes, it's going to be harder to wake up. You'll wake up and you'll be groggy. So he talks about keeping it to that. And then he typically would add 5 minutes because it takes a little bit of time to wind down and get to sleep. And so I experimented with that, and I just ended up picking 27 minutes, and I'm good to go when the alarm goes off.
And how long have you been doing that now?
Actually, I think I've been doing that for at least a year, if not 2 years. Yeah. I was taking naps before. And the reason why is I remember reading about some of the studies that NASA did with the astronauts.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. And them taking little naps, sleeping up in their capsules, allowed them to do more exacting and detailed work at a higher level once they were done with their naps.
There are a lot of business owners, CEOs, high performers that I know who take naps. In my former company, we had a dark room that had massage chairs in it. Yeah. My office in Anaheim had a sofa in it, right? I think it's really important if you can fit it in. I know that people chuckle at it, and you're going to hear people, I go on little sleep and I'm going to go at it hard charging for 12 hours in my office, those badges of honor you're really not productive.
Yeah.
When you're honest with yourself, you're not productive. You get distracted chasing the social media rabbit down a hole, and it's your brain, because it's tired, it needs a rest, and so you get distracted
Yeah.
with something else.
And I've heard from several people, and I'll just repeat what I've heard from several folks, is that, there isn't time management, right? There's no real time management. We've all got the same amount of time in the day.
Right.
Really more energy management.
Right.
In our case, what we're talking about is pretty much, more for folks who listen to us is brain energy management.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that is a good way to lead us into the middle phase here, which is the macro.
Perfect.
Right? I remember early on in my entrepreneurial career, after I'd gotten out of the military, I was really getting into the business arena. I didn't take time off. I was still hard charging it, like I was when I was in the military, and I was getting grumpy and hangry, and finally, I remember a guy who ended up becoming my business partner saying, you need to schedule time off. If you don't schedule it, there will always be something to do, but put it in your calendar. And I used to have excuses. I can't, I've got this going on and I got that going on. And he said, I want to see in your calendar, because back then it was daytimers, right? Pull out your Franklin Covey daytimer and show me that you've blocked out at least a half day a week for the next month, at least a half day. And then it's going to go to the next month, it's a full day. The next month, it's 2 days off a week you have to take off. You are no good to anyone else if you're burned out. And what I found is, after I got disciplined, I know this is resonating with some folks, Dave, because we know some of the listeners to this podcast, right? About having to take time off. What I found after like the first month, when I was really taking a full day off, and by the way, like not checking email, right? Like you just have out of office responders on, and I mean really taking time off. I was coming back more creative.
Yes.
I remember after working for several years and not taking a vacation, that I took 2 weeks off. Together, and I came back, and I had so many brilliant ideas that people started saying, "Please don't take any more time off. You're coming back with so many ideas. Then we have to implement them in the company, right?"
Wow.
And that's getting ahead on the more long-term stuff, right? But truly, for your long-term health, for the health of your relationships, for the health of your, spouse and all of that kind of stuff, you've got to take time off during the week, these micro breaks, or not micro, the macro rest, taking a day off a week, or at least a half day. For anyone who's in the Christian Judeo religions, they call it a Sabbath, taking the Sabbath, which is supposed to be just a day of rest. And frankly, the Western work week was built around that.
That's right. Yeah. And I think one of the things to remember too for us is that, we have not, I don't know, how would you say, evolved. I mean, we've had how many thousands of years of normal work rest cycles, because part of it's because we couldn't work at night. It was hard to with the light and all that kind of stuff. But now it's so different. We can really, if we wanted to, work 24/7.
Some do.
And some do. And that, of course, that leads to burnout. But one of the things I think that's so important is, especially, and you may have trouble taking that Sabbath or that day off. But just to remind you that somebody like a Tony Robbins, somebody like them, if they are hard charging for a weekend, I know what he does is he takes a whole day afterwards, totally off, no computer, nothing, to be with his family, to recharge. And, then there's one other aspect that we want to talk about here as far as recharging is your sleep hygiene.
Oh my gosh.
And
so underrated.
It is. And here's, Larry, where we're going to talk about where we don't necessarily practice as much as we preach. I'm doing better.
Guilty.
Yeah. So Cheryl, I'll tell you a story. Cheryl, my wife, she went to like a sleep doctor not too long ago, and she's going to get one of those studies about sleep apnea and all that. But the doctor was very helpful in saying, here's what you really, really, really need to do. And it's not like we didn't really know that, but it's it just emphasized it to us. So maybe we should talk about a few of those good sleep habits, because sleep is so critical, right? Sleep is, it helps regulate our hormones. If we don't sleep enough, we can gain weight. The levels of stress, we don't recover from that. In fact, cortisol levels, and in fact, good sleep shows that it allows our brains to process the stuff throughout the day, so that when we get up, we can be more creative and be more enthused for our work. So
there's been a lot of studies on sleep that have shown that it extends your life up to 10 years if you have good, consistent, and this is the key, consistent sleep hygiene. I remember years ago, it was kind of like a badge of honor that people had. Oh, I only sleep 5 hours, a night. And so everyone, all these young entrepreneurs thought, well, if he only gets 5 hours of sleep a night, I can only get 5 hours of sleep a night, because they were saying, I get up 2 hours earlier than anybody else, so that, I'm working 2 hours, more than my competitors every day. And that's 10 hours a week. And that's blah, blah, they extrapolate that out.
Yeah.
Well, that might work for you. You might be an outlier, right? But for most people, they will be more productive. They'll be more creative if they're getting at least 6, but most people say 7 to 8, maybe even 9 hours of sleep, right? I think that depending on how much you sprint, Dave, and I mean both emotionally and physically, you need more recuperation time. Right?
Yes.
I can think of times when I was really super physically fit, which I'm not right now. If I were to do my spider graph, the physical, I'd probably be a 4, maybe, and I used to pride myself in running in the 8.5 to 9 range on that. So during those seasons when I was super physically fit, where my spiritual life was strong, my relationships were strong, and I was killing it on the finance side and on the professional side, I needed rest, because every part of my body and soul and spirit and mind was taxed, right? And so if you are a high achiever, you must get sleep. You must get physical and emotional and just rest. You have to rest your machine. You got to take your foot off the accelerator.
Absolutely.
It does make sense, and it's kind of one of those TFTR things, right? Thanks for the reminder. We know this.
Yes.
We need to be reminded of it. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to take it, between hydrate and sleep hygiene. So very important.
Yeah, let's do a few quick techniques. So one of the things that's important about sleep is make it a routine, make it regular. I've got a new grandson. He's a month and a half old. And that's one of the first things that Brian and Noel, my son and daughter-in-law, did, is get Logan on a schedule, right? Because it's important. Yeah. My niece and nephew, they've got their kids who are older. They're still on a schedule, which is really important. So, like, for example, figure out when it is. If you're going to try to get your 8 hours of sleep, go from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., start your bedtime routine at 9 o'clock. Turn off the TVs, no phone, no nothing, as much as you can. Make sure your bedroom is what the
Pause
sleep
for a second,
doctor.
Dave.
Yeah, go ahead.
Pause for a second. Some studies have shown that you should have at least 60 minutes of screen-free time prior to sleep.
Yeah.
No computer, no phone, no TV for an hour before sleep.
Yeah, and that's hard for some people. And again, Larry, I think part of this is what works for you, right?
Right.
And so, but there's no reason why you can't, when you start that routine, if you want to read something, read a physical book. They still make those. They still make those.
Or listen. Or you can listen to one, or music or whatever.
So one of the things the sleep doctor talked to Cheryl about, she said, use your bedroom only for sex or sleep. Don't watch TV in it. Yep. Typically don't read books, maybe a little bit, but not much. Keep it as dark as possible. Get rid of any light. And then I also heard about trying to keep your bedroom cooler at night, because your body, you sleep better. Yeah. So those are a few techniques. And of course, no caffeine, past like 4 p.m. around that time, or 5 p.m. No caffeine, and don't eat too late, because the last thing you want to do is be woken up with indigestion, because you're laying flat and you know, you get all that acid kicking up. So don't eat too late. So those are a few tips that I've got. You have anything else?
No, I think those are the major ones.
Yeah. There's other ones too. Like sometimes what'll help me is I'll use a noisemaker.
Ambient. You're talking about
Ambient noise. Like for example,
not the party.
yeah. No.
A sleep. Some call it a sleep machine. So it might be waves. It might be crickets, forest noises, whatever.
Yeah, because sometimes I'll wake up after a few hours of sleep and my mind will be going, and that helps. If you do wake up and your mind is going, you know, maybe you can get up really quick and write it down and get it out of your brain, or turn a noisemaker on and get back to sleep. You know,
well, let me tell you my very quick experience on getting up and writing it down. The other things I would add in there between the cool room and all that kind of stuff we talked about, the no screen time, is to do your gratitude journal. You think like, what am I going to do for an hour if I turn off the TV? Well, between turning on some soothing music, dimming your lights, brushing your teeth, washing your face, doing your gratitude journal, doing a little bit of listening or reading, that's an hour.
Yeah.
If you and by the way, when I'm really at my best, I'm physically slowing down. You see me, Dave. I move at a pretty quick pace.
Yeah.
Right. Like physically. If I'm going to go get a cup of coffee, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. I move at a quick pace. And so I intentionally slow my movements down as well. I'll meander to the kitchen, you know, I'll meander to the bathroom, you know, like watching me brush my teeth in the morning is a lot different than watching me brush my teeth at night. I mean, no, I do it with a sense of urgency.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's like, you're excited and you want to get the day going. And
exactly. The shower I take in the morning is much faster than the shower I take at night.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
You know, I linger a little bit longer. I'm prepping for it. Right. So I think the gratitude thing is an important thing too. You start training your mind for rest. Now, what I used to do, Dave, is what you just said, that if I had things in my mind, I used to have my to-do list right next to my bed. And I was training myself. If something popped in my brain, I would write it down.
Yeah.
So what I do now when I wait, if I have something going through my mind, if I truly cannot rest and it's really driving me that crazy, then yes, I will get up, I'll come to my desk, I will write it down, and I'll do breathing exercises and go back to bed. I don't have my to-do list in my bedroom any longer. I was training my brain to wake up to write the darn thing down.
That's right.
So now what I do is I say, okay, it woke me up. I'm letting you go. If it's important, it'll come back to me.
And that's true. It will. Yeah. It normally will. I do know that there's times when if there is something that's waking you up in the middle of the night and you can't get to sleep, you can be running it over and over and over in your brain. That's creating a loop that you're just, you can't even think about not thinking about it. Then get it out of your brain. Hopefully though, that's the minority of the time.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, let's jump into a few long-term things, right? Where we're talking about weekends and longer vacations.
Like full weekends. Like this is where it's 2 days off. Get ready. You ready for this, Dave? In a row.
2 whole days.
In a row. Yeah.
Yeah. I one of the things that's important to me too is that, and this is what you can do, a practical thing with your team to force you guys to take some time off, is give your team a week off. So Larry, what happened when I was in my career, we worked in a semiconductor company. It was Rockwell at the time, and then changed to Connexent, but we were there working in an office area that was in the same building, but where the factory was. Yeah. And so what they would do is they would take 2 weeks at the end of the year, around Christmas and New Year's, obviously, and they would shut the factory down for maintenance, which meant that they would turn power off and on the whole time. And so we couldn't work. So they'd make us take some vacation and give us some time off. And what was really awesome about that is everybody in the team was off. Then there was very, very light support needed by anybody. Yep. So it wasn't like you'd come back from that time off and have a jillion emails when you take the time off. Yeah. So it was awesome to be able to take the whole time off. So that's one of the things that I'm doing in my company is I'm giving the team off. Now we've got a rotating schedule for support in case clients need it. but we're telling clients we're not going to be around except for emergencies. The team's going to be off, so we can really relax and get our brains rested. And if somebody is inclined to do it, then they might want to take a course on something. But I think though that's going to end up being where they're excited about it, they want to do it, it's part of their strengths, and it's actually going to feed them as well.
Yeah, I just want to give people permission here for a second. You don't feel guilty if you're at the end of season where you're not taking time off. We have all been there. We've all been there, right? I mean, we're crying out loud, Dave. We were just on a call last week, I think it was, with one of our coaching clients, right? And that she's about ready to take her first vacation. And how many years did she say since she launched her business? 3 years?
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever it's been. Like she's never taken a vacation. I think it's 3 years, right? And the first one is going to be out of the country, right?
Oh, wow.
Right. And so she has to, we said, all right, let's go through this. And this is what, so she was on the virtual spotlight session? She was on one of the
she was in our Q&A.
Q&A, that's what it was, in one of the monthly Q&A calls. So it's a good question. Like, how do I do this? What do I need to be aware of? Like emergency contact list and contacting your vendors and contacting your key clients and those kind of things. And that's where some of these Q&A calls that we do come in. They're really handy because it can be as complex of an issue as like reorganization or refinancing to very not simple, but questions like, how do I take a vacation? What do I need to think about?
Well, and what's so important about having access to that, to our course and community, and especially our community where you can ask the Q&As, we do those monthly now and a little bit of teaching, is that sometimes these questions, it's not like you're going to think ahead of time. Sometimes these questions come up just like that. And you need to get an answer to it because you're having a problem in your business. Right. Or like for this person, they needed to get ready to go on vacation. What do I need to do?
Right. Well, this reminds me, Dave, I used to be in a mastermind years ago. It's a high-end mastermind and big businesses. And one of the guys was like one of my heroes, a guy named George Lanza. He's a business broker. And he shocked everyone in the mastermind. I think there were 12 or 13 of us in there. And he used to take 1 month off a quarter. Some of you folks have heard me talk about this before.
That's right.
1 month every quarter he took off. And what he would say is, hey, I can sprint for 8 weeks if I know that I'm going to take 4 weeks off afterwards. He built his life around this. And he was married, had a wonderful wife, and they were very happy, and they traveled regularly, right? So he didn't just take a month off and sit at home. They went and did stuff. And he'd come back tanned and excited, and and he built an infrastructure. This is what he and Dora had said, hey, we're going to build our life around this, right? So a lot of us like, oh, that's really awesome. So you can do it, but it reminds me of professional sports teams where they have a season, X number of weeks long. They're going to bust their hump during that time, and then they're going to take time off, and they're going to refresh, rejuvenate, do the surgery or whatever it is that they needed to do to be prepared for the next season, right? I think that's one way to look at the long-term breaks and rest. So that you can maintain a positive trajectory in your life and in your business.
Yeah, and I think, and sometimes you do need to have experiences with your spouse or your family. You do need to take those extended times off. I remember one time years ago when the kids were just in high school, we took a cruise to Alaska, and we did some land tours and stuff. We were gone for 2 weeks, and it was like one of the best vacations ever. Memories that I wouldn't trade $1 million for, $10 million for. It was so awesome.
Yeah.
If you don't plan, or if you feel like you can never take a week or two off, you're never going to have those experiences, because life is, we love our businesses and we get so much significance through those, but so many great things happen when we have these amazing experiences. And to get some of those experiences, we got to take a little bit of extended time off.
Yep, I think that's really good. Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
The great thing about working at home now is that you get to see what goes on in life. And my dog is flipping the heck out and has to go out. So let's wrap this thing up. Bodhi,
all right.
Please do not go. Come here, Bodhi.
All right, let's do that.
On the floor.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us today, for joining us at Timeshare and with Bodhi. And life is fun and crazy. Remember, though, building a team is the way to reclaim your freedom and allows you to do some of this stuff.
Yeah.
And we're here to help you with our course and community and our white glove service and our
Yeah.
Q&As. And with all of that stuff, we help you in so many different ways, including helping you find a rock star VA. And so you guys do us a favor and do a few things for us really quick.
Right.
Subscribe to the podcast. If you haven't already done so, using your phone, of course, and subscribe on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button and click on the little bell next to it to get reminders. Number 2, give us a rating. Obviously, we want 5-star, but leave us a rating. Put a comment below this video. Any comment. Tell us how you rest. Tell us what works for you, because you don't know how many people you may be helping by giving them a new idea, a new way. So do that. And then number 3, go to HireMyVA.com for more information about all the stuff we talked about, our course, our community, our white glove service. And remember, even without experience, you'll learn how to prepare for hire and thrive with virtual assistants. So join us. Go to HireMyVA.com for more information.
Yes. And hey, I've been sprinting for about 90 minutes now. I'm going to go take a break with Bodie. Yes. And so I'm going to take a little mental health and physical break by walking around the block a little bit. But I just want to remind you folks, do yourself a favor, do the world a favor. Go do something really significant today. All right. God bless you. God keep you. God hold you. We'll see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.